You're listening to Grain of Salt, a podcast hosted by Tom Burtless and Christa Glennie Seychew, covering the Buffalo Niagara region's food and drink scene. This week's episode is brought to you by Step Out Buffalo. Check out stepoutbuffalo.com for what to see, things to do, and food to try in Western New York. Find info on festivals, beer events, concerts, tours, and everything else happening in Buffalo. This week, Christa talks with chefs Ed Forster of Buffalo Proper, Steve Gedra of The Black Sheep, and Mike Obarka of Ristorante Lombardo about whether or not culinary school is worth your while.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grain of Salt. I'm Christa Glennie Seychew, your host for today. We are going to be discussing the pros and cons of attending culinary school for people who wish to cook professionally. And here today with me, I have Chef Edward Forster from Buffalo Proper. Hi, Ed.
V. Gates.
I have Stephen Gedra from The Black Sheep, chef and owner.
Hello.
And Michael Obarka from Ristorante Lombardo. Hi, Mike.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
We had hoped that Chef Roberts would be joining us, but he's had a flood at the restaurant and is texting me about the many buckets of rain he is catching through the third floor ceiling. So he will not be joining us. And so we're going to proceed without him, and I'm going to a little bit try to say the things that I would suggest that he might say. I'll play sort of his role, because what we really have here is two people who have made a career in the culinary field without having attended cooking school, and what we had hoped would be two people who have made a career in the culinary field having attended rather prestigious cooking schools, and James was one of those. So I'm going to sort of play devil's advocate when I think it's necessary to kind of keep the balance in place. Anyway, so first let's briefly talk about Edward. Please just briefly share your background with me in terms of education and our listener.
I went to the Culinary Institute of America and Niagara University.
When you went to Niagara University, what was the program you were in there?
I forget, it was so boring. French and restaurant management.
Hospitality management, right.
Yeah.
And you did graduate from CIA.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And you went to Hyde Park.
Yep.
Okay. And Mr. Gedra, you did not attend culinary school.
It's true.
And I believe, to the best of my knowledge, you've been cooking since you were a teenager, because that's when you and I worked together and you were a cook, right?
That is also true.
And what would you accredit the bulk of your cooking skills and style to?
Hard work and paying attention.
Okay, very good. That's a good thing to hear. Mr. Obarka, I'm going to ask you the same question. Your experience?
My experience, just started as a dishwasher and decided that cooking was very cool. It just looked like a lot of fun. And I was at a point where me and school just didn't like each other, so it just worked. Like Steve said, a lot of hard work and some passion.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Very good. All right. And so I guess this is a question that I'll say a lot of people ask me, young parents who have kids who want to go to culinary school and kids who are in high school that I see and talk to when I'm doing high school, events or whatever, often ask this question about whether or not they should go to culinary school. And I certainly have my own opinion. I know that all of you have your opinions, but to start off our conversation, I would like to read two very different opinions from some pretty well-known people. Daniel Boulud believes that culinary schools are indispensable to a young chef who really wants to make a career, because he thinks that the culinary school gives a student access to a repertoire of basic knowledge that might be more pure than what they would learn hands-on in a work environment where perhaps the person who's teaching them doesn't have the actual full deal skill set. So no shortcuts, basically. And also that he thinks when you're a culinary student, you have access to libraries, time to study, and that you have a better perception of the chance of being able to move on and take master classes and do other things with your career later in life when you need to freshen up or you want to change or do things differently. Of course, very famous for sort of discussing the negative aspect of, or the reason why you shouldn't go to culinary school, is Mr. Anthony Bourdain, who went to CIA. And he feels that if you go to CIA or Johnson Wales or the French Culinary Institute, that, you have the potential of graduating with a degree that actually has some kind of value, but that every other type of school, really you're graduating with debt and not necessarily the option for having a better skill set or moving ahead any farther than anyone else. And now we have James FaceTiming us. This is very awkward, people. We can't do this.
I just hung up with him.
Okay, you hung up on him. Nice.
Sorry.
So anyway, I think that some of the pros that I hear about attending culinary school are the idea of really getting to learn the basics in a sort of A, B, C, D, E, F order, right? Steve, you and I talked about this last night, how the first couple of weeks I was in culinary school, I learned how to make a raft, to make a great consomme, or how to do basic knife cuts, things that maybe if you're working on site, you're not going to learn in an A, B, C, D, E, F, G order, right?
I learned my consomme at Pearl Street.
Did you really?
No, I
I was going to say,
not.
what the hell?
I did not. I believe that pretty much it comes down to like what type of person you are.
Yeah.
I wasn't really good at listening to people, and still kind of am not. That's why I fought hard to own my own business. And I was terrible at school, and I was always told I was underachieving because I'm not really good with structure. Within a kitchen scenario, I am, but classroom is not.
It's like a brigade works for you,
Yes.
but the idea of falling in line in a very
Yeah.
authoritarian school setting doesn't work for you.
I enjoy being part of a team, but I don't like to sit and be told you know what I mean? Like, this is what you need to learn and repeat and repeat and repeat. I guess I'm not good with structure
Authority.
in a classroom.
You're not good with authority.
Yeah, but all these basics like mirepoix and chicken stock, like how to do, thankfully. Like, and you had people to show you that, but like I've met so many people that are like, my shape and don't know how to make a chicken stock. Like, don't know what a remoulage is. Don't know like basic, what goes into all this stuff.
Well, and of course we have the chronic problem, which is the first thing that people like to call out, which is that we have a whole world of kids in their 20s who know how to make foams and who know how to, do spherification, but have no idea how to break down 50 chickens in a reasonable amount of time without a lot of waste, right?
I think that like the purity of it, like Balud was saying, the ABCD, getting to learn that aside from an actual job, because once you get on a job, once you come onto my team, you're doing what I need you to do. It's you don't have time, and I don't have time personally to come aside and make sure that you're making a raft, that your brunoise is tight. That's
classic
just
French
classic,
training,
yeah,
right.
which isn't my style anyway. But I need you to do what I'm doing. So what you just learned, spend the time to do is almost. I don't
like
want to say
how
useless,
many
but-
times in your culinary savory side have you ever made a dacquoise, a sablé, like all of these little French cookies? You know what they are. You could look them up on the internet, but like if you've never even heard the word, it's never going to come up. Like and the kid that's 24 and trying to learn how to cook, and you're asking him every day to make 65 different kinds of pastas, fresh handmade. That's great. That's beautiful. But like he's not going to expand himself if he doesn't do it upon himself. And if he had that basis of like that year and a half of like getting drunk every night and going to culinary school and smelling bad, then he'd at least know the words.
I agree,
yeah.
but I do think it's funny because Paul Jenkins, I ran into him actually. We were having shots at Buffalo Proper a couple weeks ago or whatever.
I don't think he drinks.
He's the chef at Tempo, and he had mentioned I don't know what we said, how we got into this conversation, but he was like, all the French stuff is like cool, but nobody's using it anymore. It's about reductions. It's about other techniques. It's not the cooking people are doing today is not based in that's what we were talking about, mother sauces. And I don't necessarily I don't necessarily agree, but I thought it was an interesting point. I think a lot of people actually think that.
I'm calling bullshit.
Everything I fucking do is French. It's
the fundamentals of. If you're making a stock and you're making it right, that's French.
True.
If you're making a roux, that's French.
True.
Bordelais sauce. Everything is a red wine reduction. Like veal stock.
We go, Italian restaurant. We go through 15 gallons of veal stock a week.
Oh, I bet.
We go through 60 liters because we're a little bit more Euro.
You also say rocket.
It just makes
If you say
people feel
courgettes,
awkward.
if you say
If you
courgettes,
say
we're
courgette,
fighting.
we're done.
We're gonna fight, dude. I
No
swear to God.
aubergines here, sir.
The
charred aubergine paille.
This isn't Canada.
Anyway, I think
this
that
is metric.
for me the biggest concern is really not people who are attending big culinary schools, because I think that when, of course, the downside is a lot of people attend culinary school, graduate with a degree, and go work a $10 an hour job, because it is not like West Point, where once you finish West Point, you're going to enter the service as an officer or somebody who has some authority. When you go to culinary school, when you graduate, there's a good chance you're entering in a very entry-level position with an entry-level pay grade. And, Edward, and on top of that, you know, if you take a $25,000 loan, your payment is only going to be $100 and something a month. But if you have a $50,000 loan, your payment's $450 a month for your student loan. And if you are making $10 an hour, that is a crippling scenario. But I would say that my bigger concern, that even the kids who graduate and we assume are getting some kind of real education at the French Culinary Institute, New England Culinary Institute, Johnson Wales, CIA, which I think are really the best of what's available to us in this country. The problem is the kids who are going to vocational culinary schools or to community college culinary schools. I think that's where the challenge is, because the kids who are going to culinary school at a community college are typically also taking entry level, like, you know, 101 classes that are really not attached directly to their education, but they have to pay for them.
Well, a lot of them, too, are actually working in the restaurants where they're going to be doing internships, too, at the same time.
Right.
Like one just graduated, but almost, 2-3 of my cooks are attending school at NCCC right now, as they are actually working, too. So when they get out, they've already got a spot. They've already got a little experience. So that might help them a little bit more while they have the education. Also, to say I worked here, too, for a while, so they should be able to get a little bit more money.
Sure.
A little bit better, more secure
Not
job
walk
coming
into
out.
the basic pantry job or whatever.
I mean, a lot of the culinary schools, like when I was, we had to have 6 months at least having worked in a restaurant. So I had 2 full years of working in a restaurant. One as a dishwasher, one as like a prep cook, line cook, and terrible, grill guy. But like you go in and like you said, like you get all that real world experience, and then you start to develop the idea of like, do I want to do this? And then you go to culinary school where, for good and bad, they show you everything you could ever want to know, which I guess is my biggest question about culinary school.
They don't teach you how to work in the foxhole.
No,
That's my problem with it. Is like you may learn a lot, but the actual level of hand-eye coordination, speed, multitasking, and just the amount of brain work it takes to work a place when you got 50 dupes up and like all the stuff on the grill and just your memory, that stuff doesn't get tested in culinary school.
There was
You know what I mean?
there was 22 students.
I don't think. I think that's a natural, inherent thing that the better chefs and cooks have.
That all just comes with experience anyway. Like it's not like all of a sudden like this kid who didn't go to school is just like some badass. All of a sudden, like you learn from places like Pearl Street. You know what I mean? Like
you learn from shitty jobs and you learn from great jobs.
You swing freaking fryer baskets around for a while, and you learn like just how to operate inside your head of how it's supposed to go logistically. Hopefully,
right.
You can't teach someone to be smart, read a ticket, do 19 things at once. Like
you can't teach somebody how to like eat a freaking burn or a cut and just stay in there and shut your mouth and not be a little bee. You know what I mean?
Well, if you rub
swear
mayonnaise
on
on
this podcast,
it,
Steve.
I know.
if you rub mayonnaise on it, it's fine. The burn.
Butter, I heard.
No, man, I stuff. Trying to really build up mayonnaise
European
lately.
butter.
Yeah, bluegrass.
You know it.
But I think that my biggest concern is that I find a lot of kids are attending culinary school, not necessarily great culinary schools, and have this anticipation that they are someday going to own their own restaurant, and their perception of owning your own restaurant is that you have a lot of money and go on vacation a lot.
Steve, when are we going on that vacation, bro?
My house in Fiji is dope, you guys, and all the trips I take to Thailand and France.
Yeah, but
Hell yeah.
we were off. We were off that day together. That was a day that we had off. Yeah, that was vacation. That was
When
beautiful.
did that- when? I don't think that
You
ever-
took a day off last
that
year.
never happened. It
No,
wasn't
last
us-
year.
It wasn't us together though.
No, but I feel like I took a half day and I
Yeah.
left after
You were
like
there
10
in spirit.
hours. But I mean, still, it was a beautiful day.
But I think that there's, obviously the biggest complaint that I hear from chefs who are trying to bring in new young cooks is that new young cooks don't understand that you're going to spend 10 to 15 years broke tired,
It's
burnt,
called paying your dues. And
maybe drunk.
That's any job.
and that it's going to be, if you at some point find some kind of success or contentment or
flame out.
well, that's the option for sure, or even attention from the outside world in any way, that it doesn't usually come quickly, and it certainly doesn't ever manifest into giant dollars.
I mean, I think you're speaking to possibly the mentality on the whole. It seems to me that people just expect things right away.
You think in general
just
that is a
general,
national problem?
You know,
The workforce.
I mean, I've been doing this for 24 years. I mean, I was 13 when I started doing this, and
Looks like it.
Yeah, I look like shit. I feel like hell too. But you know, like even I've achieved everything I've wanted to achieve, but I still have to fight for everything every day.
Right. It's not like you're just like doing layups at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm not just like hanging out like, oh, look at me stacking my money and driving Ferraris and like.
No, it's not that we revel at a recipe that we created 10 years ago that made us 1.2 million, and it's not that we can just grab Campari from the back bar. It's that every day, like if somebody burned the veal stock, doesn't tell you, puts it into 3 different things, and you mix it into X, Y, and Z, and then your name's on the front door, and it's like, you know, all of these things have, like, every little thing, seasoning levels, acidity, presentation, temperature. If the server was even like polite and could say the words that are on the menu, all that stuff matters every day.
That's true.
Well, and when you're the owner, it's even a deeper situation,
yeah, and especially,
right?
I mean, everybody.
Because when there's not toilet paper in the bathroom, there's a problem.
Yeah,
right?
when something goes wrong, everybody's looking at me.
Everybody comes to us, right? It's just like,
or for the sous chef with the milkshake we were talking about. Sorry. Anyway, well, I think that, you know, I've heard from lots of people this general concern, and it makes me feel a little bit like stuff that my parents used to say about my generation, right? About how nobody really has a work ethic, and everybody thinks that life should be easy, and you know, like I hate to beat that drum, because I actually feel that I know as many people who are under 30 who bust their fucking nuts as I do people who are over 30. But I do believe that in the culinary field, since that has changed and become a cool thing to do, it's now the rock and roll industry all over again. And that, you know, everybody has a band, and how many of those bands are actually going to be good enough to get signed, and if they get signed, how long they're going to be able to pull off that level of fame and not go broke or burn out. Super limited, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be your goal. Your goal has to be that you love to cook. Your goal has to be that you love the camaraderie of the kitchen. Your goal has to be that you think about food all day, every day, and really nothing else. Because if your goal is to get rich, you're in the wrong business.
I mean, I would say I gauge my success on the success of my staff, especially like any cook that would leave.
is that James Roberts?
What?
Keep going. Yeah.
CDMC, EFT, DMT.
Now, don't make fun of James's initials after his name. He worked hard for those.
He dropped it anyway.
No, he's like famous for like bringing, like you're saying,
right?
Like,
No, but I
if
mean,
somebody
for
can
mentoring
actually,
young kids
That's-
into a
this is
position
good.
where they actually, a lot of his young chefs have gone on to
I got one
hold
of
very
them.
important positions outside of the country at big resorts and country clubs. He's really groomed. Dustin Murphy is one of his kids. Will Peterson's one of his kids. I mean, there's a lot. Half of Elm Street is former employees of his. That's really been a very fundamental part of sort of his career. But now that he's in his own kitchen, that all changes, and we have to like find ways to get great people to want to
but
cook
like
again.
I was the one who went to culinary school of this entire room, and the only things that I got great things out of it, but like you learn professionalism. I had to be there at 2:30 in the morning for breakfast class, and if you were a minute late, you got sent home. And it's like, how many of your guys show up every week? 5 minutes late, 7 minutes late. You know, like you learn
they're all
professionalism.
sorry,
You learn professionalism. You learn repetition. You know, yes, there was 22 people to serve lunch to 30 people. Like, obviously, we all work in restaurants where you serve 110 people with 3 cooks,
Sure.
and the dishwasher called out, and you know you have to learn another language so that you can, you know, talk
how
to
many
the
languages are you
homeless
speaking
guy.
now in your kitchen?
I'm
I
at
think
like
3.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Latin doesn't count because I just basically scream gibberish. But like culinary school for me taught all the best basics, and it got me my first job. Like I wouldn't have walked into a George Perry restaurant and worked the fish station being some snot-nosed little kid straight out of culinary school, if my diploma, however you say that word, diploma, if it didn't say the Culinary Institute of America. Like, it doesn't mean that I had any right to be there, but it means that I came in 2 hours early every day, maybe 3. I learned how to cut fish from the Mexican prep lady because that's what I needed to do. Yeah, I had a 7-day class about fish butchery.
Oh, that's all you need.
Like, exactly. Like,
No, you're good.
I had no idea how to cut a bass or a fluke or any of the basic fish
There's only 2
sizes.
There's only 2, flat and round. That's
Yep.
it. You're good. Go for it.
Well, so I think that's an interesting point, Ed, and I'm wondering. I'm gonna throw this to Obarka first. When you were coming up, did you feel limited by being in conversation with people who had more experience with you, and like, was that a struggle, like, at any point to, like, or would you just take that as an opportunity to go figure things out, learn on your own?
I've always had just a lot of competitive drive. Played a lot of sports when I was a kid and stuff like that. I always had a desire just to work harder, which I think is huge. Like, working harder than the cook next to you, than the person next to you, and really absorbing yourself in what we do. I mean, it really is about passion and hard work. I think just the amount of books that I've read, just because I didn't go to culinary school,
Right.
and I didn't want somebody who would come in as a cook to know more than me, to
Sure.
be better than me.
You don't want to be
because-
called out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
get
wanted
that.
the better spot of the line. I wanted, the better position.
I feel like in life it doesn't, like, I respect that, and that's what I do still to this day. But my stupid piece of paper when I was 21 still got me a better spot than people that had worked there for 4 years.
Sure.
It has no fucking reason for it. It's no
not
merit.
fair, you're
It's
saying.
not fair. But I walked into the middle of that restaurant and I was like, I want to work there. And
Yeah.
they're like, yes, okay. I'm like, all right. Like,
I would say the culinary degree isn't. It's not that it's not fair. I mean, this business isn't fair.
I just
Sometimes
say the
people are
world
working
sucks, and that
sometimes
the
people
kid
aren't.
that walks in with a piece of paper, like,
But it's not like you didn't.
is given a leg up.
But was it worth $100,000?
It's not like you didn't. It's not like you didn't work for that
He
diploma.
puts
though.
the mic down.
It's not like you just were handed that though.
Yeah.
You
worked
did
for
have
it.
to work for it. Sure.
Hey, you did get up to 30.
Yeah.
That's work.
I saw my sister go through culinary school, and she went to Necky, and
New England Culinary Institute,
yeah,
for those
and-
of you who don't speak Boston.
And I mean, she got out of the cooking game for a long time, and did.
And Jill is the owner of Nickel City
Right.
Cheese and
She's
Mercantile
still
and the
in
queen
food,
of cheese.
but she's not like, I mean, she is the reason I do what I do because I was
You were following
enamored
her.
by what she
Yeah.
was up to.
And she was a good cook. I've eaten some of her food. She's
yeah,
a great cook.
But I mean, I couldn't imagine spending all that money and then changing your mind. You know what I mean? I wanted to make sure that that's what I wanted to do. So
One of the interesting things that David Chang said, and that I actually think I sort of agree with, is he suggested that people who think they want to cook start working in a kitchen at the bottom, begin to work your way up, and go to college, but to get a degree in philosophy or
business.
art or business.
So wait,
Because
there's actually a
any-
point to a philosophy degree?
Any of those things might give you perspective and a
get
more
Latin.
well-rounded ability to do your job, whether it's from an artistic standpoint, a philosophical standpoint, or clearly what a lot of our chef-owned restaurants struggle with is the business side of things, right?
Well, I mean, it's hard to become well-rounded when you do this for a living because you're
15
all
hours
you're
a day in a
doing-
restaurant.
Yeah, and for me at this point, it's crazy, but it becomes less and less about food and more about running the business.
And the
Like,
people
I
in the
mean,
business.
10% of my day is usually. I mean, obviously, I'm surrounded by food and prepping and all that stuff, but there is so much more going on that people don't
Health
talk about.
inspector, taxes,
Oh yeah,
payroll,
I mean,
equipment.
managing crew.
Scheduling.
now, I mean, we're putting in vegetables now. We're doing
Yes, nice garden
that
you
whole-
got going
yeah.
back there, by the way.
that whole thing. I mean, you don't think about a chef doing all this stuff, but you do. Like you,
Right.
It becomes less and less. The higher up you get, it becomes less about food because you have people that will help you. My sous chef is an amazing
Mike
culinary
Phil.
mind. So I'm lucky.
And you got Ellen.
Yes,
who's
I mean,
brilliant.
I have my whole team's great. They're all great. They're all into it. But you are more geared toward how can I make money? How can I put these people in a position to succeed every day? And that's what I mean. Like that's kind of more your focus.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like the food is. I mean, the food is kind of second nature now. You do this for long enough, and it just kind of rolls.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're still working on it, but that's I don't know.
I think the community college programs are a great way for people to get some of that. I know that that's the kind of scenario I went to cooking school in, and that there were aspects of it that had to do more with the business side of things. My concern is that it's my belief that not just here, but sort of a lot of places, that the people who are educating kids, while they have great hearts and even decent skill sets, don't necessarily have live in a kitchen, long-term sort of cooking experience.
Is that better or worse though than training under a chef who doesn't know how to say the word mirepoix or know what umami is?
That's also a valuable point. I mean, that's, I really can't tell you guys how many kids come to me with questions like this all the time. And my point is, do you want to be a cook or do you want to be a craftsman?
I mean,
if you want to be a craftsman, you have to chart a course for your career where you are studying and working for craftsmen, even if they are 12 layers above you in management, because that trickles down. If you just want to be a cook, you can go work anywhere.
Obarka, you could teach somebody how to make gnocchis, right?
Gnocchis?
Yeah,
Gnocchi.
I can teach you how to say gnocchi too.
Gnocchi.
Wait, it's not
Gnocchi.
called gnocchis?
Gnocchi? It sounds like
I'm
donkey,
not
right?
Italian, though, so I don't know.
Dude, I should have went to school.
You guys
So
are terrible.
yeah, but my biggest, I'm sure you saw this too. Like my biggest confusion is for me, culinary school was you have 7 million career options,
Yes.
and so they show you everything you can do. But it's also like getting a computer programming degree where they teach you how to sell the computers at Best Buy.
Right.
Like for me, that's a little confusing right now. And I mean, this is definitely a very intricate. There's so many different paths you can take in this career.
It's true, because there are hundreds of ways that you can apply a culinary degree.
But if you end up at Circuit City, R.I.P.
Well,
selling the fucking computers, like, why did you go to culinary?
Somebody's got to work at Delaware North, dude, right? I mean,
Aw,
there is.
Man.
No, I mean, and those are good.
Come on, those hot
could have a
dogs
good
don't
job.
eat themselves.
That's a job where
There's-
you can
listen,
make $80,000 a year and have the vacations we were talking
For
about, right?
for every one of us, there's 20 of those dudes.
But
And
you know what
I
the
mean?
problem is? All the ingredients come out of plastic bags and they're pre-cut.
Just like
Yeah, but somebody has to
like
temp
flesh.
those and know
Oh,
that
Jesus God.
49 degrees is not a good
so
hot
yes,
dog temperature.
There is that kind of food service happening here in Western New York and all over the country. But I'd argue that is more about being a factory than it is about being a restaurant, than it is about culinary. It's
I'm just
more
saying those are but
about
those
production.
That's a career.
It is, and
you
it's
can
good
have
money,
that.
right?
You can. I mean, yeah, totally. Somebody's got to run hotels. Somebody's got to do these big production things. I mean, it's more varied than we actually.
Of course, and certainly, like an example, like Dave, who works for you, went to CIA, right? Yeah. And his goal was to be in management and front of the house stuff. And a lot of people don't think of CIA for something like that. They think that that's another situation where you come up or somehow magically fall into that job. But there's a lot of sort of management, culinary-based work that has really nothing to do with ever touching food at all.
Exactly.
I was lightly reading the Ruhlman's Soul of a Chef.
Yep.
Where just the first part that I got
It's
into.
a really
where he
good
talks
book,
about
really, that everybody should read.
the Certified Master Chef exam.
Yes.
And how the majority of the people who were actually taking that test were more corporate, hotel.
Correct.
Big time so that they
Resorts,
get a bigger pay.
country clubs.
Yeah. And it really wasn't so much about them being as passionate. It was really more...
That
cut
exam is
and
methodical. So the most certified CMCs in the world are at CIA, but Roland Tanin, who is locally in Buffalo, and he does work for Delaware North, and he is pursuing his CMC certification.
I thought he already was one of the master chefs.
I'm not sure. But that dude owned
He's a
restaurants.
master chef, and there's only 75 in the world or
But
something.
he burned it down in actual restaurants. He did a fucking awesome job. He's the forward in Thomas Keller's first French Laundry book.
Right.
Like, that dude is badass. And, like, he got to a point where it's like, I've done everything. I've made beautiful food. I've done everything, whatever. And now he's going to, like, I don't know totally what he does, but he's an awesome dude. And he's, like, the inspiration for Thomas Keller. So,
I see a lot of...
we all learned the square root of 16 is 4. How he got to where he got, he started doing the same stuff we did. And so when I'm 80 or 40 or 27 and I become a country club chef and I am the quintessential country club chef that everybody, like, for some reason pokes fun at, and I'm holding the clipboard and I'm like, we need 80 pounds of barbecue chicken for this event this weekend, John.
But you'll have a purchasing manager for that.
But yeah, I'm going to smile and revel at the fact that I can just be like, execute that. Thank you.
So here's an interesting thing I just want to mention really quick, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Steve, but one of the things that I know that James would be talking about right now is, he worked under, I believe his name is Charles Carroll, who he admires and who is very well respected in the culinary world, particularly when you're talking about people who have a lot of influence over sort of the culinary academic world, like people who go to Bocuse d'Or and compete at sort of that level in our country. And granted, they are almost all rooted in country clubs, but there is that aspect of the culinary world here. And James really came up under him and really in a very fraternal scenario where Charles has offered him advice throughout his whole career, and where James's degree allows him lifetime placement and connection to this whole network of people who really cook at sort of a very technical level. And so I'm assuming, since I'm trying to fill in for him a little bit here, that is one thing he would say that you certainly cannot get coming up in a kitchen.
No, that's true.
That sort of attachment to a more national level. He goes to the
I see dead people.
ICP.
He goes.
Your reference is way better.
Indiana. We're going.
It's
gathering.
the big conference that they have in New York every year, where there's all kinds of new things are rolled out, and it's star-studded celebrity chefs, are standing there talking about the new equipment that whatever the folks who make the smoking gun and whatever put out, so that's a level of culinary that we don't see a lot here in Buffalo. But I would suggest that people who have been successful in that world would say that a lot of it is because they came up through a culinary program that continued to support them and provide them with resources throughout their careers.
I guess my biggest fear, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is I just don't want any of these kids to have any illusions about what's going to happen to you.
That's also my biggest.
Don't just get handed the keys of the Ferrari, man.
Use your illusion. Yeah.
And if you want to go spend $400
Sorry
on a
about heroin,
BMW lease, you're going to have to live with your mama to do that.
Well, and if you want to be a badass, you probably got to go to some big city. I mean, we're obviously trying to change that in this town, but you're not going to get paid, and your rent's going to be freaking astronomical.
You're going to live with 9 people.
And you're going to live with 9 people, and you're going to, maybe have beer money, maybe not. And you're going to have to go through that for years,
Steven,
that's what you
the
did.
last time that you interviewed someone for a hotline job, did you look to see if they had culinary school education?
No, I never would, because
I don't honestly get very. So my biggest struggle was that in relocating from city to city, no one in Chicago gave a shit about what I did in Philadelphia.
Right.
And no one, obviously, they see that I'm from Buffalo, and they're like, I couldn't point to that on a map.
Can you make us wings before you leave this interview without a job?
Yep. I mean, so in today's job market, with where we are in Western New York, I look at a resume, I see if somebody's worked, but all it really boils down to is the stage. If you want to come hang out, if you're positive, if you write things down, if you care and seem to have drive and don't mouth breathe the whole time.
Yeah, if they come to you and then they're willing to come in for free and spend a day in your kitchen to see what goes on, and then you can actually get a look at what they're doing.
And
if they show up for the interview, that's
pro tips. Yeah. Stay for cleanup, kids. Stay for cleanup.
Well, and for most of the people who are listening to this will know what a stage is, but for anybody who doesn't,
stagiaire
is like an idea of coming in to apprentice for whatever amount of time, whether it's a shift, a couple months, a couple weeks, whatever, and to just do all the bitch work. And hopefully if you do enough bitch work and you're a hard-working dude and you also are eager and engaged but also know how to stay the fuck out of the way when you don't know what you're doing, somebody will allow you to stick around and they'll teach you how to do things you would that isn't just bitch work.
I mean, what I look for more than anything, and I'll give kids a piece of pork, like a pork shoulder, and be like, what's up? What I look for more than anything is situational awareness and awareness within the kitchen, knowing where everybody is,
sense of urgency,
when they get the fuck out of the way.
Yep.
I shouldn't have to tell you to get out of my way. I'm fat and I'm coming in hot. You know what I mean? So
that sounds like a date I went on once.
It's the name of my band. Fat and coming in hot. I look for that more, just awareness. When my now wife staged for the restaurant we were at, that's what she was great at.
And by the way, you shouldn't really be sleeping with the people you're staging with, by the way.
Well,
just saying.
Whatever that job was 12 years ago, she's still here, so win. She was great at that. She just knew when to move, where to be, all that whole thing, and just,
situational
boom, 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 boom. Exactly.
Awareness, right?
Yep.
And then a
you
sense
can-
of urgency, which we mentioned.
You
right?
can
Sense of
teach
urgency
the
is
skills.
huge,
You can
yeah.
teach the skills. That's something that's kind of innate that not a lot of people have. And if you don't have it, you might be screwed.
I would say that pretty much everyone working in customer service in 99% of the jobs we have in America right now don't have situational awareness, don't have a sense of urgency. And I don't understand because I felt like that used to sort of be part of that job, like to teach people that they had to be
Like if you go into
aware
the Gap
on
and you
top of
walk by
things.
7 employees and no one makes eye contact,
Yeah,
like,
or
into a restaurant, the hostess
Or-
is like staring at a computer.
Or
I-
how
yeah, I
about
don't even
if you're
fit in the
standing at a
Gap.
bar and there's 12 people in line and nobody even shoots you eye contact to recognize that you're patiently waiting at that bar? Like, that's not an acceptable situation. And that seems to be that kind of behavior. I don't know if we've just stopped expecting it or we've stopped training people how to do it. I know that it's required in a decent kitchen, but it seems to sort of be a widespread thing. And we expect even better customer service, I think, because we have so many things at our fingertips these days.
It's true.
But yet it's less and less available. It is perfectly acceptable for the barista, apparently, to be on her phone for 15 minutes instead of taking my order. You know, I mean, I can't imagine when I'm just doing the old lady bitching thing, but I can't imagine if I was 18 that I would have ever thought it would be okay to be on my phone or reading a
No.
book or looking at my pager rather than,
I
paying
like
attention to a
books.
customer.
I like books.
I can't even read.
I want to read. I aspire to
I
read.
didn't go to reading
This is
school.
way more like a Friday night than it is a podcast taping. But anyway, so
Is it Friday?
oh, stop.
Shit.
Forster's not even wearing clothes over there.
Oh my god, he did get naked.
That is my Friday. Yeah.
Anyway, so I think if somebody who you thought didn't have situational awareness and didn't have
At the front of the house with you.
obvious integrity or maybe wasn't disciplined enough to get their shit out of bed every morning and to show up on time and didn't have
How is that okay?
Let
Well,
me
I mean,
finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence. And didn't have a sense of urgency, but comes to you and really thinks that they want to be in culinary school. I mean, I've had a couple kids like that, and I just tell them absolutely that's like a total
to the
waste of
dish
time for
pit.
them to even have anything to do with a restaurant at all.
Get your ass in the dish pit and
You think that's where people will learn that?
Yeah, I mean, you learn really quick when you're getting your ass kicked. Like you get really freaking smart really fast. You know.
So you're okay with your dishwasher showing up 20 minutes late because he forgot?
No, I'm
like-
saying if you got a kid like that, start them over and get them. Maybe build them back up.
Do a reset.
If you got shitty work ethic, you don't belong in restaurants at all.
No, you go
But,
upstairs,
like,
you get the belt, and you
situational
hit the
awareness
kid.
thing. You can kind of reboot somebody, start them from the bottom, bring them back up. I mean, if you got shitty motivation, you're done. You know,
There's no
because
option.
this is all self. You got to be very highly self motivated to do this.
Well,
Right.
people like us will run you right over.
Oh yeah, through.
Yeah.
Like you weren't even there.
No, I'm heavy enough.
Are you guys calling me fat? Yeah, is that like a
We're all fat.
No, no.
like an
we really
inertia
do out of
thing
that.
because of the energy that I carry?
You're still nice.
Sorry, you guys didn't go to school. That's like it's a physics.
It
Well,
is.
if I was in
Comment.
that shirt, those
Oh,
buttons
you
would
are
be screaming.
such a dick today, Ed. And you're wearing a dishwasher shirt, so I would check yourself.
Listen, it's a size extra medium. Burtless
Anyway,
is
is that
a
asleep in the
Sharpie?
corner.
In Samoa, maybe.
Oh, this is so downgraded to like a regular hangout. We have to get back on task here, people.
Sorry.
So you're saying that to a kid like that, maybe their parents, whatever, should suggest to them that they need to start at the bottom somewhere and really kind of like work out their demons and their bad habits and sort of set their perceptions of what an employee
That was
needs
my
to
point,
do.
yeah. You can reboot it, but you need drive and work ethic. If you don't have that, you're done. Situational awareness you can teach. Like you could get somebody on task. Obviously, if they're willing to learn anything, you can teach them.
Right.
You know? But yeah, you'd have to
One of
start
our
over.
dish-
I'd say. You know.
One of our dishwashers, he was from the American Institute. Comes in, he's washing dishes hard.
You mean
He's
the
looking at
International
him-
Institute?
or International- I'm
He's
sorry,
like, an immigrant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he comes in and he's just working harder than everybody else. He sees him making pasta in the back. He gets curious. We put him on it. Boom.
What's his name?
You're not taking him.
Now, how much do you pay him too?
He gets paid.
No, really.
I don't know. I don't handle that.
So
But he makes
John
a decent fair
you know what?
wage.
makes
He
my
pasta?
sous
fair
chef,
wage.
he actually went to school, but not to culinary school. He went for urban planning. He started off as a dishwasher too, and he went from washing dishes, and now he's my sous chef. You know, he caught the bug, and he's really good at it. Like I said, the situational awareness that he has and his drive and he's always reading stuff. He's constantly pushing himself to do more, to learn more.
So another place in a lot of the reading that I did in preparation for this podcast that I found that culinary school seemed like it might be a good idea is people who are starting a second or third career. So people who are in their late 30s or 40s who think they want to cook, but maybe, I know, like I just see knee problems, back problems, whatever, but are interested in, you guys got to stop. The idea of going to pursuing a culinary career, Bruce Weisela did that.
He's like 73 now, too.
He is not. He's just a little bit older than me.
No, it's handicap accessible
what
over there.
Bruce
Right?
did, Bruce decided, you guys are
He
terrible.
gets free coffee at McDonald's.
Bruce was an engineer.
So close to that.
And he decided, you guys are killing me. Bruce was an engineer.
He decided
and
to wheel his
that
way
he wanted
into the
to
kitchen.
Edward, stop. Oh my God.
We love you, Bruce.
We do.
So Bruce
We do.
decided that he wanted to be, he was an engineer, went to college for a very successful engineer, decided that he wanted to cook. And instead of going to culinary school, he went and took a shit job at a cheesecake factory and learned the basics. And worked and was there for a year and then moved on to working in a better place. And I think that actually makes more sense to me than going to culinary school. But I did see a lot of places online where very articulate and intelligent people were suggesting that culinary school was a good stop for somebody who's already in their 30s or 40s but thinks they would like to cook in some respect.
I mean, I've seen it happen. The other sous chef at a restaurant in Boston, he
Did he like cheesecake?
Same thing. His nickname was Lunchbox, so yeah. Oh yeah. Lunchbox. I miss that guy. He was hilarious.
You guys are killing me today.
So,
this is so much fun.
I mean, he did like advertising, and when he was like 32, went to Necky, and showed up, and he was a badass. I mean, like he was in it for like 3 years, and he had no business being as good as he was because he's a really smart, driven guy. So it's not like it's outside the realm. It's obviously going to be harder. Like you're trying to burn like your body early on and get that, so it's less physical the older you get because let's face it, your body's going to break down.
By the time you're 35, 36, 37, it really starts to be very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, I'm washed up as hell.
My left arm went numb this morning.
Nice. That usually means you're having a heart attack.
Yeah,
right?
you might want to get that checked.
You smell burnt toast?
I'm 32.
But I think
When did strokes become so funny?
You guys are killing me. Oh, this is so terrible. I'm sorry to our audience. We're just having way too much fun. I think that I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so the other thing I wanted to talk about, in case it comes up, is staging, which we did talk about a little bit. I kind of am wondering if we can give somebody who maybe doesn't have a college degree, culinary degree, has worked in a kitchen, let's say a year, and they want to go out and see what else is out there besides their home kitchen. There are so many different scenarios. Staging can be a nightmare. It can be amazing. It can be where you learn nothing but how to, brunoise carrots for 7 hours. And it can also be somewhere where they let you do crazy stuff like plating.
I mean, we treat our stages pretty well because
it's my understanding.
We just don't. I mean, we're not dicks, and like we like to have fun. I think that like once you see somebody dice a vegetable, you kind of are gonna know what they got.
Yes.
You don't need to give them like 80 pounds of carrots. I mean,
I think a lot of times when people do that, it's just punishing bullshit.
Yeah, which is stupid to me. Like I have jobs I want done.
Right.
And like obviously part of what we do is pork, so I would kind of want to see how you handle, a big ass piece of frickin' pork. And, if you will actually ask questions or if you'll just stay inside your own little head and
then fuck it up really bad.
Fuck it up, and then I'll
we're having barbecue.
Yeah.
No, but like we've all been on that stage. We've been on the stage where you slice soybeans, and pick
Clean
soybeans
lobsters is
for langoustines. 9
hours. 9 hours of cleaning lobsters.
Right.
I did nothing but
Or
clean
at
langoustines, so I couldn't open my hands.
At Ed's kitchen, you might be stuck double shucking fucking peas all day.
Yeah, that'd be 20 minutes. If you take all day, then you're clearly not going to get. No, but like we I'm sure you do the same. We try and give stages different jobs through the kitchen to kind of stay with different people, talk with different people, but also see how they move, interact, and also like nobody wants to be in that room doing mirepoix that some French dickhead's going to throw into a pot and make stock out of.
Right.
Like you throw out 90% of your brunoise of carrot so that you give them perfect fucking carrots, and then at restaurant rhymes with Aniel, you just fucking made veg stock for fucking 40 hours.
I had the opportunity to stage at 2 Danny Meyer restaurants, Gramercy Tavern and Mylino.
Yep.
Mylino, as soon as I showed up, the place looked like they just hated me. I ended up slicing meats like prosciutto, finocchio, and I ended up slicing that for 4 hours and trimming baby turnips. That's all I did in the
That's all
basement
you
prep
did.
kitchen. I watched about a half
Were
hour
they
service. They sent me on my way.
They were
the
dicks?
they were tools. They hated me.
Should have made poo-poo.
I should have. I didn't, though.
Dry storage, make poo-poo.
I'm professional, if anything.
Come on.
And then the next day, I went to a Gramercy Tavern. Complete opposite experience. They're both run their Danny Meyer operations.
Right.
Treated like a king. The
But it's
hostesses
chef
knew my
who's
name.
The guy who makes the decision about how that goes down. It's
Right.
it's not
It
Danny
all
Meyer.
comes
Yeah,
from the
no,
top
no,
on
no,
down.
no.
That's why we're all here. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, the
it was
last
just-
thing you want to do
The
is
chef
like
knew your name. You got to
Oh, the
be more
hostesses
involved.
knew my name. They,
Yeah,
everything
nice.
was. Yeah, you were involved in the pre-service, and it was just an amazing.
the last thing I want to do too is
experience.
like shell shock the hell out of somebody, and I mean, yeah, it's gonna be hard, but like, I don't want to like terrify you and make you like completely give up because like we're dicks to you. I mean, if I need lobsters cleaned for 9 hours, that's what you're gonna be doing, but I'm probably gonna be doing it with you because it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, there's the guy that you pay to clean the lobster and the guy that you have help him because he's here and that's a normal day in the life.
Yep.
And so, do you think that kids who want to stage should just go into every opportunity that they can if they admire the menu or the chef or the restaurant and be open to that opportunity? Or do you
Yes.
think there's a way to ask questions or to vet that scenario so that you're only getting into situations you really want? Or
There's
do you
no
think some
way-
of them should just shut the fuck up and peel legacy?
There's no
all
way
day?
you're gonna be able to like suss out what's what until you're in it. And I mean, nobody's stopping you from walking out the door. You can
Right.
bounce, be like,
True.
you know what, guys, go fuck yourself. I'm out.
Yeah, I know
You're
more
assholes.
than a couple people who have done that at Alinea.
Hey, man, I mean, you want to be a dick? I got no time for you. I'm wasting my fucking time on you. You know? So, I just, you have to just go and find out what's up. That's it.
I mean,
If they
stage.
feed you, it's going to be a good stash.
Yeah, that means you didn't fuck anything up too badly.
Right.
But like, go stage at places. We'll take anybody in at our place. I'm sure you will too, and you guys too. Like, we'll take anybody in that wants interest or has like a genuine desire to learn and like check it out. I'll take them in on Tuesday. I have 3 people that work in the kitchen. I have 3 feet of space. We'll figure it out. But like, you better come and like, if I say bring your own knives and we can provide everything else, and you don't show up with knives
Or you don't show up on time.
or
you
with a
show
notebook,
Up, right.
yeah.
Showing up on
Pavanelli's.
time is-
If you come in
don't do
10
that,
minutes
that's-
late and ask where to park, like, guy, like,
Yeah.
I'm doing
So-
you a favor here.
You got to
This
put
is
your best foot forward right away if you're going to.
I think one of the things that has really changed here, and Steve, you sort of touched on this, and it's certainly something we've talked about before, and I know that Ed agrees with this, that, Buffalo 10 years ago, if you wanted to be a cook, you had to leave and go somewhere else.
Yes.
You had to go have a bigger, different kind of experience. Certainly if you wanted to come back here and own a place, but if you wanted a big restaurant or a cool restaurant experience, it wasn't really going to happen here. We have a lot of steakhouses, a lot of Italian joints, and that's kind of it.
I hate Italian restaurants.
I meant red sauce joints, not you. But today we now have a food culture where it is perfectly reasonable to think that if somebody wants to, they could really. Now, I don't ever want to suggest to somebody that they never leave, but they could have a lot of really varied kitchen experiences here that could help develop them into a cook with their own point of view.
Get out, leave as fast as you can.
I know, Ed.
Become an adult. Go be by yourself. Have to pay your own bills. Have your landlord knocking on your door.
No, but I mean, I understand what Chris
You're
is
saying-
saying. Like,
I totally agree
I know
with both
you're
of you.
saying go be a responsible adult away from your parents and figure out how to do your
And if
shit
that
before you
means
come here. But
moving-
that's not what I'm referring to.
Right.
I'm
She's
referring to
saying move out
can
of
you have
town.
enough experiences with really good chefs and with really varied types of restaurants to develop a culinary repertoire of your own. And I think you can do that here if you know
can
where
certainly
to go.
learn enough And then, like, if you travel, you could round yourself out a bit.
Sure.
I mean, go to Europe, man. Like, hang out in Spain, hang out in Italy, France, like, Hungary, whatever.
Yep.
And you'll see the things that, we're trying to kind of recreate here.
Sure.
Because the culture there is just so ingrained. I think, it's certainly better than it was 10 years ago.
That's what I guess that's the
think we're
point that
starting
I'm
to get a
trying
foothold
to
in
make.
that whole-
Yeah.
And I think
you can learn stuff in Buffalo.
And so I really
lot.
would like to suggest to anybody who's listening to this podcast who is thinking about a culinary career that they spend some time investigating the best restaurants in the area and having meals there and studying their menus and spending time, if they can, listening to or reading about the chefs who are cooking in those restaurants, because I think that there's valuable information there, and that this idea that you just need to get up and move is sort of silly, because while you may gain similar information outside, if you want to come back here and open a restaurant here, it is better for you to know the lay of the land of where you grew up and where you're leaving. Right?
And just because you cooked in Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Boston, like, there's a lot of shitty restaurants in those cities.
Well,
too.
that's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
You
Right?
know?
We hear
I mean,
people say all the
I
time.
worked in New York. Well, there's fucking TGI Fridays in Times Square.
There's way more bad restaurants in New York than there are good
you
restaurants.
could say that about the world.
Yes. And so when people try to pretend, when
Right.
people throw that stuff, I hear it, as a person who interviews chefs when they move to town,
Yep.
I hear it all.
Oh,
Oh,
sure.
I did this and I've been here and I've done, but trying to vet those resumes is really challenging.
Yep.
And it's also really challenging to have people insinuate that they're going to bring some kind of new shining beam of innovation to Buffalo that all the rest of us numbnuts haven't figured out yet. I really am very frustrated by that, because just listening to us talk
Because
here
we're
today,
just a bunch of rubes over here.
right?
Yeah.
The places that you,
I just
Yes.
learned how to change my own diaper yesterday.
but the places you guys have staged, the places you've eaten, the places you've traveled, the people who you consider your friends and mentors, just because you're in Buffalo doesn't mean that all of those people are live on the same block as you. Right? I mean, you all are people who have made an attempt to be very good at your career, in a way that is clearly driven and passionate. You guys all three of you think about food all day, every day. And have sought as much education when you were young and coming up as you do today. I mean, I see, all of you buy new cookbooks all the time. All of you talking about, the new whatever chef's table show or whatever, or, going to the art museum and having experiences that are different so that you're kind of rounding out your life experiences. I just think I'm very sick and tired of people underestimating the skill set, the talent, and the knowledge base of our culinary pool here.
Let them underestimate us all day.
That's a
fine.
good point,
I
Steve.
love
Makes me really mad.
I love blindsiding people. It's fun.
That's a good call.
Yep.
Well, I just think so. I guess we're going to wind it up unless
Okay.
anybody has anything else to say. But I think the point is that if you are interested in a culinary career,
Ed's really naked.
yes. If you're interested in a culinary career, there's some groundwork that you could do and that you could experience before you go invest all the money. Even if you decide that the country club, well-networked, formal scenario is what you're interested in, doesn't hurt to go work a couple shifts in a restaurant or to pick up a dishwashing job for the summer.
And just, never expect anybody to hand you anything, no matter at what point in your career. You're going to have to fight for your ass every single freaking day of your life. And that's just the way it's going to be.
It's true.
We still do that every day. Every
hey, man,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday.
This is not a job where you're ever going to
Nope.
be sitting in a cubicle with your feet
mean-
up on the desk, planning your next golf outing.
I'm
It's
sure
just not
people
gonna
think
happen.
Steve Gedra owns a restaurant, rich. Like, holy shit, I guarantee you make more money than me.
Yeah,
Steve,
the guy-
you
the
gave
guy
me
at 7-Eleven makes
$100
more
and a
money than you.
handshake yesterday. I mean, you're glad-handed motherfuckers now. So you golden, pony boy. Stay gold.
I know.
Stay gold.
All my vintage vehicles and whatnot.
Yes. Well, I'm very sorry that Mr. Roberts wasn't here to join us, because I think he probably would have done a better
would've.
job than I did explaining what he got out of
James.
culinary school and what he sort of built for himself in his network. But Ed, I think you really did a good job of bringing up some valid points that spoke to the benefits of culinary school.
Dankeschön.
I myself went to culinary school and think it was the biggest waste of my time ever. And I never knew anybody who worked in a restaurant. I wish I'd known that I could just walk into a restaurant and ask for a shitty job and learn that way, because I didn't know that. I had no clue. So I think I hope that people listening to this will learn something from it, and that if they want to, they'll reach out to you guys and ask questions via Facebook or via email.
Edward@buffaloproper.com.
Anyway, thanks everybody for being here, you guys. It was
Thank
really
you,
fun.
Christa. That was awesome.
It was great.
It was good.
Thanks.
Let's eat. Thanks so much for listening to Grain of Salt. We'll be back at you next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Grain of Salt. To keep up to date on future episodes, follow us on SoundCloud, Facebook, and Trending Buffalo. Again, thank you to Step Out Buffalo for sponsoring this episode. Check out stepoutbuffalo.com for what to see, things to do, and food to try in Western New York. Find info on festivals, beer events, concerts, tours, and everything else happening in Buffalo.